Our movie opens with a group of kids taking advantage of Nanno when she moves to a new school because they are unaware of her potential for harm. Nanno muses on the subject of excuses as a girl is interred in the middle of the night, noting how frequently we hear them. She speculates that perhaps individuals continue to apologize for upcoming errors. The girl who is being buried is later identified as Nanno. Nanno switches to a new school just days beforehand. The males rush to room B where Nanno is after hearing from Hawk, a varsity basketball player, that a gorgeous female recently transferred. Hawk went to the basketball court to inform his mates Chit and Noong of the situation. To get a look at the new female, they peer through the window. Their coach, who unexpectedly comes behind them, slaps them on the head with a newspaper and orders them to immediately return to the court. The disturbance is noticed by everyone in the space, including Nanno. She turns to face Itim, her seatmate, and inquires about the identity of the three boys. She replies that they are the 3 Points, a group of humorous basketball players. Tiu barges in and tells Nanno that those lads just caused trouble. Itim likes the 3 Points but claims she can't compete with them since they have too many admirers. The 3 Points are forced to run laps as punishment by the coach in the meanwhile. Hawk affirms that he was the ringleader when the man asks him if he was. As Nanno becomes the talk of the school, stories start to spread about her, such as the notion that she must be a problematic kid or that she had her entire face altered. While some claim she's cruel, others remark on how gorgeous she is. The next day, Hawk presents Itim with a box of chocolates. Hawk nods as she blushes and inquires whether it's for her. When she asks whether it's for her too, he tosses her another package and instructs her not to be greedy. He wants her to give it to Nanno since it is for her. Itim squints her eyes and moves on. She gives Nanno 2 of the chocolates shortly after. However, Nanno refuses to take them and commands Itim to do so. Itim refuses to eat another person's leftovers despite Tiu's request that they share. Tiu snatches the candies to indulge herself as a result. I wait Tim's has to be reduced, so Nanno just then remarks that it's a good thing she didn't eat the chocolates. Itim leaves the room fuming indignantly. The 3 Points approach Tiu and Itim as they make their way home that day. They give them 2 backstage passes to see a Japanese band perform, but Itim is instantly dubious and inquires as to the catch. After hemming and hawing, Hawk says that he wants his parents to attend his little gathering because they will be traveling. The girls return the tickets and decline their offer since they understand that this invitation is only a pretext to visit Nanno. Hawk accuses the lads of being to blame for their unsuccessful attempt as the boys groan in sadness. Itim asks T whether she's sick of others approaching them to get close to Nanno in the meanwhile. Tiu, on the other hand, rolls her eyes and informs the woman that she is overanalyzing the circumstance. Nanno discovers a white rose on her table the next day. Hawk gestures and points to the rose he put outside as she looks out the window. Hawk acts as though Nanno destroyed his heart as she slams it with her purse. Soon after, he departs, and Tiu says it's only fair that it should. Tiu queries Nanno about whether she dislikes Hawk at all as she settles there. Nanno, in contrast, asks Tiu whether she has a crush on someone in her follow-up inquiry. She responds that she once did, but girls shouldn't be trusted with boys. Itim can't help but roll her eyes in frustration as she hears their chat. Taking out her phone, she informs her group chat that Nanno is conceited. The group chat's remaining girls respond by criticizing Nanno and their remarks. Noong approaches Tiu later that day to see if she might help him study for his upcoming math test. Tiu sighs but nods in agreement. Noong turns to Nanno and beams as Tiu explains a formula. She responds with a grin, and Tiu observes that Noong isn't paying attention since he is diverting his focus to something else. Itim is forced to follow her as she exits the room abruptly out of anger. Nanno is left alone in space as Noong swiftly rushes after them. Tiu is crying in a cubicle when Itim discovers her in the comfort room. She inquires as to whether she still likes Noong before remarking that she needs to quit because he is unattractive and foolish. Tiu counters that he isn't stupid, he's simply not very good at studying. Tiu is still sobbing and says she doesn't understand why she loves him. Tiu instructs Itim to leave the woman alone as she attempts to console her. Tiu informs Itim they should attend the performance a little while later as she exits the stall. Itim hesitates because she is aware of what this implies, but she looks into Tiu's eyes and accepts the strategy. The girls invite Nanno to the 3 Point celebration that evening. They make an effort to make Nanno intoxicated, but it appears that she has a very high tolerance for the drug. Itim and Tiu pose as going to acquire snacks in order to get retribution. They intend to prepare a concoction of cocktails that will get Nanno inebriated when they are by themselves. Itim pulls a bottle of pills from his pocket and promises to put Nanno to sleep. When they are going to give Nanno her drink, Itim adds 5 tablets to be safe even though they had only agreed to put in 3. Tiu makes a toast before everyone takes a drink, and they all do. The 3 Points then start to maniacally stare at each other while Nanno falls on the table shortly after. The other lads would rather see the deed take place straight away than let Hawk bring Nanno to his room. Tiu resists, claiming she doesn't want to see it. Although the lads debate about who should go first, Hawk ultimately gets the privilege because he is the owner of the house. As soon as all parties have agreed, Hawk leads Nanno to his room. He starts unbuttoning her shirt as she is still consciously lying on his bed. Nanno suddenly opens her eyes and considers if he would wait to ask before doing so. She is absolutely sober. Hawk apologizes after being caught off guard, but Nanno declines. She would prefer that he get her approval. Hawk then jitterily inquires as to if he may make to her. Just to make his point seem more persuasive, he even claims to adore her. Nanno, however, squints and moves toward the entrance. She unlocks the door after requesting that everyone cease listening in. Nanno can only go when all the lads have her. Tio yells and pushes back the door while claiming this. Knowing that Tim likes Hawk, Nanno asks whether she would want to trade places with her. Tim, however, yells at Hawk to follow instructions. Under duress, Hawk grabs Nanno and throws her on the bed. Quickly taking off his belt, he starts to have sex with her. Nanno cynically responds that something as soft as tofu must interest her as he asks whether it feels nice when he does this. While the other females attempt to ignore what is occurring, Hawk's buddies laugh at him after hearing this from outside. Hawk is startled and perplexed when Nanno starts laughing out of control. She is told to stop laughing, and when she doesn't, he covers her mouth and chokes her. Hawk doesn't notice Nanno's breathing difficulties since he is too preoccupied with his work. Hawk notices that Nanno has stopped moving at that same moment and that she has been slain. The others rush inside the room after seeing something is amiss. They get terrified upon discovering Nanno's body and start blaming one another. In order to dispose of Nanno, the gang does just that. They dig a hole. Hawk apologizes to Nanno's body before they can finish burying her, claiming he didn't intend for things to go in this direction. Nanno is quickly found partially buried in the ground. She then abruptly gasps for air, showing that she is still breathing. Insisting that they all assist her right away, Hawk is instantly stopped by the gang, who realize that if Nanno survives, they would all be arrested. Tio commands the lads to kill Nanno so that they can bury her more quickly and suffocate her under the ground. They pause for a second to gather their breath after totally enclosing her underground. They all then offer their regrets for their actions. Due to the events of the previous night, the group has trouble concentrating in class the next day. The 3 Points chamber freezes in dread when someone enters just then. Upon watching Nanno stroll in front of them while still alive, Tim and Tio also stop moving. Nanno questions the girls as she settles down as to why they didn't wake her up. Nanno joins the girls during break and inquires as to their lack of color. She guesses that if they don't answer that they were quite inebriated the previous evening. She is not Nanno, says Tio as he stares at her in utter terror. The new girl, however, laughs it off and ponders what else she may be if not Nanno. Tim inquires as to whether she is Nanno's twin, but the girl finds it absurd. Nanno remarks to the girls that they appear ill at that precise moment. She then grabs Tio's hand and feels her pulse. In order to check her temperature, she also feels her face. She says that she must have dug a little as her eyes suddenly focus on Tio's hand's wound. Tim and Tio are terrified by hearing this, so they scramble to leave Nanno. Nanno comments that the party was enjoyable and that she ought to be welcomed back as the two depart. When she turns around, she notices the 3 Points glaring at her from the window. The gang gathers that evening to discuss the situation at Hawk's place. Tio threatens to involve his father in the situation when Chit declares that he doesn't want to murder anybody else again. Hawk goes to answer the door when it suddenly rings. He's shocked to see Nanno return his smile. She remarks that the group as a whole is present and accuses them of being rude for not inviting her. She chuckles at the realization that she was joking and had truly gone there to get her phone. She believes Hawk's room to be the location and enters the home to proceed there. The gang follows her upstairs as she continues. When she enters the bedroom, she invites Hawk to join her for a moment of reflection. When he stays still, she wonders whether he no longer loves her and if he intended to leave her after getting what he wanted. Nanno abruptly removes her phone from a cushion. It has some fantastic footage, she says as she turns to face the gathering. She plays a video that shows Hawk pleading with him to give her a Another does Tio's voice, reminding Nanno that she can only come out when all the lads had fallen with her. She then shows a video of Tim advising Hawk to take advantage of Nanno. Additionally, there are recordings of Chit and Noon that show their participation in the crime and their strategy for burying her body. As everyone begins to fear, Nanno simply observes them while grinning menacingly. She makes the sudden decision that the videos must be broadcast to everyone. Nanno is ready to transmit the recordings when the mob crowds her and smothers her with pillows. Nanno, however, merely chuckles as they attempt to murder her once more. They quickly proceed to the location where they initially buried Nanno's body once she passes away. They hastily bury her once again when suddenly a voice tape of their previous apologies begins to play. When T orders Hawk to retrieve Nanno's phone from the pit, everyone pauses in dread. Nanno grabs Hawk by the neck and starts giggling as he leans closer to the dead. While the gang hurriedly tries to bury Nanno, Hawk yells and frees her from him. Hawk smacks a shovel on Nanno's face to stop her from laughing in the midst of his fear. Nanno unexpectedly emerges in front of the group and inquires as to if they have finished stomping on the grave. Hawk strikes Nanno with the shovel once again, and the others help him beat her up. Nanno, however, only shows up after them, which prompts the group to dash for the car. The automobile is locked, and to their dismay, Nanno has the key. Hawk snatches the keys with caution as she dangles them close to his face before starting to apologize. Nanno, though, queries his apology once again. The others scream in terror as she then faces them. Nanno kisses Hawk's cheek after telling them to get home safely. Nanno laughs uncontrollably as the vehicle leaves. The next day, when Nanno leaves for school, she wonders how people have turned saying sorry into a custom. People frequently apologize, make the same error again, and then apologize once again, creating a vicious cycle. She enters the classroom shortly after. Tim and Tio scream in terror as soon as they sight her. Nanno smirks as she observes this. This is how our movie ends. Tell us in the comments how you felt about this movie recap. See you in the following movie recap.